Hello everyone, I'm NiniFC and this is Blue Lines TV, and tonight I'm bringing you a match preview for our game against Everton tomorrow evening. And yes, Conte has said in his press conferences that Kennedy and Musonda will be playing. I did do a predict that 11 for the upcoming game, so if you guys want to know what I think the lineup's going to be for the game tomorrow, I suggest you watch that previous video yesterday so you're in tune. But anyway, getting on to how I see us approaching the game. Now, of course, we do know that Ronald Koeman has been sacked and David Unsworth has taken up the managerial role so far. Obviously, he's the caretaker manager for now. So it is going to be fairly interesting in terms of how Everton are going to approach us. Now, I did tell you guys about Everton and it was no surprise why Koeman left in the end, because as I was telling you, they were playing like a B-Tech Tottenham. What do I mean by that? Well, they've got, similar players that like to play in the holes with Sigurdsson and Rooney. Personally, I always feel it's best to have one of them, but with what Spurs do, what really helps those two guys in the hole in Ali and Eriksen shine is that Eriksen plays more support role, Ali's more of an attacking role, but they have the wing backs that get forward, they have pace, good one-on-one defensively, stretch the play, and they can get down the byline. And that's what Everton don't have. Of course, Baines isn't the same player anymore, Coleman's been out for ages. They didn't have any fullbacks, so it was kind of ridiculous by Koeman to persist with a system that didn't have the players to really do it any justice. And that was why they were very easy to play against, because once he stopped their wing-backs getting forward, he basically won the game. And it was even easier to do that because they had no defensive support, and it was no surprise why they kept conceding goals. And then you have to realise they had no pace at all to play with. And it was weird. One criticism that Everton fans have given Koeman was the fact that he didn't use any wingers. Now, I have a feeling that Unsworth tomorrow is going to change things. I won't be surprised if he's going to adopt a 4-3-3 approach, obviously with Tom Davies probably having Sigurdsson dropping deeper and obviously having more of a freer role. And I expect him to probably use Morales and Lookman. For some reason, Lookman wasn't used as much, so it will be different in that regards. Of course, I have a feeling that the game against Everton might be a bit trickier. I'm not going to say, honestly, I don't think it's going to be too difficult, but it's going to be more of a test because now the Everton players, they're much more confident now that Koeman's left. A lot of the players weren't happy with his approach, especially with how he treated some of the players. I know you guys, some of you guys saw my tweet about Oumar Niasse earlier on and how he was outcasted by Koeman and basically told, just forced out. So it looks like the players will have something to play for, but at the same time, this Chelsea team, there are a lot of players who have something to play for again. Now, I did make this comment in my earlier video yesterday, and I did make the point that this is going to be Musonda's biggest game of his career so far. I know someone in the comment section was like, he's played against bigger opponents. Of course he has, Real Madrid and Barca, but in terms of his professional career, in terms of, playing for Chelsea, because that's the main thing that Musonda wants to do, this is a massive opportunity for him, because if he performs well, Conte is going to see him as a real alternative in Premier League games. And of course, this is Musonda's first start against a Premier League opposition. I think if anything, Everton are probably a perfect game for him to play in, because when he does attack the flanks, they don't have any fullbacks really who can deal with his pace, can deal with his dribbling ability, his movement. And that's actually one thing I like about Musonda, and that doesn't really get spoken about, is his movement off the ball. Of course, he hasn't been as clinical in front of goal, but it's his movement to get in those positions. It's his movement to drift in field and make runs in behind. And I do make this point, to me, the guy is kind of, similar to like a Pedro and Willian. And I feel that if he was to get more game time, and I'm feeling that if he does perform very well, if he can get himself another goal, which he needs to do, because goals are the only thing that managers see, or managers of Conte's ilk see. If he can do something that affects the game for us tomorrow, then he's got a good chance of, increasing his odds of becoming a first-team player for Chelsea. So let's hope that happens. With us, of course, we have some injuries. I'm expecting us to do what we normally do against Everton recently, because we have had a lot of good form against them. We have found it fairly easy, and it's because Everton, they can't cope with their width, they can't cope with their flanks. And now we've got Kennedy and Zappacosta, two very direct wing backs. They might not necessarily be the best in possession, but if you give them the ball, they're very happy to beat a man and get straight down that byline. And I think they're going to be the key to the game against Everton tomorrow, because Everton can't cope with any width. They can't cope with any pressure out wide. They don't have the legs in midfield. Of course, I think with a with a 4-3-3, with an extra man in midfield, probably with Idrissa Gueye playing deeper, he's going to probably help cover and support the wide areas defensively when Everton need to. But you've got Tom Davies and Sigurdsson. Yeah, they're good players, but defensively off the ball, I'm not quite too sure. Up front, they have that Spanish guy Sandro. Hasn't been too great in the Premier League so far. It's going to take him a while. And when you're playing against our back three and you're someone like Sandro, whose movement in behind hasn't been as impressive as I thought it was going to be, it's going to be pretty easy for us. I'm expecting Christensen to really snuff him out the game, and I'm expecting us to keep the possession against Everton tomorrow. I think Everton are going to probably try and play things a bit safer. I think with Unsworth, he wants to try and stake his claim to become the manager of Everton. So I'm not expecting to do anything too crazy. I think he might play something fairly, fairly safe. If they do lose tomorrow, he doesn't want to lose by 3 goals, because that's not going to do him any favours. So I'm expecting Everton to play with a more cautious approach for the game tomorrow, and I'm expecting our players to really make a go of things. Of course, the key players to look out for, Musonda and Kennedy especially, and then of course there's the midfield dilemma as well. Now, as I did predict in my previous video last night, I have a feeling that Mpardu will start this game tomorrow, because we've got a game against Bournemouth where 2 short in midfield. Bakayoko and Fabregas can't play every single game to the 90th minute because they haven't been getting subbed off at all. They've been playing right to the end, on top of training sessions on top of that as well. They need a rest. We can't afford for any one of those guys to get injured. Imagine, Conte's already spoken about Bakayoko feeling he's growing a bit. I think that was a game against Roma especially. And one thing I have noticed with Bakayoko, as the game does go on, his influence really goes. And as I did explain, he has no pre-season, and of course he's he's still not 100% match fit and match condition just yet, so he's going to need that time. So I don't think Conte wants to put any unnecessary pressure on him, especially when he's already said that he doesn't think the game tomorrow, he doesn't think the Carabao Cup is that essential or that important. So it's best that takes the cautious approach and lets Bakayoko sit this one out. And I think it'd be interesting to see what Mpardu does starting the game. As we saw against Nottingham Forest, he wanted to show that he could play at this level. He wanted to show and give the impression that he wasn't scared to be playing in the first team. That crunching tackle he made earlier on, and of course this guy's been training with older pros throughout his entire career. At Exeter, he was in the team since he was 15 years old. He's been travelling with the Welsh national team as well, part of the squad. He's been playing with guys older than him, and of course that's had a big influence on his career so far. And it's no surprise, obviously, when you play with people older than you, it makes your development quicken up, and you develop a bit faster. And I think that Conte's seeing things that he likes in Mpardu. Of course, he fits the qualities and attributes that Conte likes in a midfield player. Tough on the tackle, strong, good aerially, good on the ball, good technically, and that positional sense, obviously playing as a centre back, him playing further up, he's not going to be too crazy and just bomb forwards. He's going to keep that midfield he's going to keep that core midfield very compact and tight. And I think that Conte is going to, give him some game time. I expect other youngsters to play tomorrow too. I'm not going to be surprised if we see John Sterling coming on again in the second half. I hope that he gets to show more of what he can do. Hopefully he gets a few more minutes on top of the kind of short cameo he got against Nottingham Forest. But you guys, I can't see us losing this game tomorrow. And I know I keep making the same mistake all the time, but from a tactical standpoint, of course, you can't always predict every result just by the tactics, because the beautiful thing about football is that it is unpredictable. What if a referee makes a decision? What if it's a terrible mistake? What if our players start to underperform, etc, etc. But I think that understanding the tactics and understanding your tactical strength over over the opposition, that gives you an understanding of what to expect in a game. And like I said, I'm expecting us to dominate the flanks against Everton tomorrow. And yeah, you guys, my prediction for the game tomorrow, I'm going to go for 3-1. I expect us to concede something sloppy, probably a set piece. You know, we keep conceding from set pieces. I'm hoping that something's going to change so we can counter that. You know what? I think Musonda will have a very good game tomorrow. As we've already seen in his Instagram post already, he's hinted at that he will be playing. Of course, Conte's made it obvious himself. Musonda doesn't play as much, so he's really anticipating this game tomorrow, and I think he's going to try and put in a big individual performance, and I think he's going to do it tomorrow. I'm going to be surprised if he scores another goal. And of course, Mitchie up front, I think he's going to continue his form. I think with Everton playing with you know, with a back four tomorrow, as I'm predicting, Mitchie is going to get more space to play. And I've made this point, when Mitchie has space to play, when you let him play his natural role in terms of making runs in behind, playing off the last man, fox in the box type of striker, you know, then you see what he's really about. He's a goal scorer. He's not necessarily a great football player, but he's a great goal scorer, and he's probably the best finisher that we have at the club at this moment in time. But anyway, you guys, that's going to end my match preview for the game against Everton tomorrow. Please like, comment, and subscribe. If you haven't signed up to the UFF app, what are you waiting for? Make sure you do it. And I'm hoping you guys like some of those concept designs for the merchandise I'm looking to sell to you guys. Hopefully you'll like it. Obviously, you know, I like my fashion. I like my designs. So don't worry, it's going to look good, and you'll look good in it. Anyway, thank you guys for watching today's match preview. I'm being EFC. This is Blue Lines TV. Signing out.